Good morning and welcome to your Partner in Success Radio. I'm your host, Denise Griffitts, and each week I have the pleasure of speaking with business leaders, authors, and entrepreneurs who come on this show to share their personal journeys, their insights, and actionable strategies for building lasting success, both personally and professionally. And I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsor. Today's episode of Your Partner in Success Radio is sponsored by Diana Fritz and Grit Leadership, GRIT. Diana helps leaders show up with grace, resilience, influence, and trust, especially when the pressure is on and the pace of change just feels relentless. Through her coaching, consulting, and her book, which I have, Uniquely Imperfect, Uniquely Qualified, she equips executives and teams to turn adversity into fuel, build healthier cultures, and lead with values at the center of every decision. So if you're ready to strengthen your leadership, and your relationships in a world that's only getting faster and more complex, visit Diana on her website at gritgritu.com. I know it's an interesting name, but gritgritu.com. Now back to my guest, and I'm so excited. He is returning for the third time. And today I'm so excited to welcome back Steve Cockram to the show. Now, Steve is a globally respected leadership expert. He is the co-founder of Giant, and a trusted advisor to CEOs and executive teams around the world. His work blends deep organizational development, cross-cultural intelligence, and performance coaching to help leaders multiply their influence. This is important without sacrificing integrity or relationships. He's also the co-author of a bunch of books, and I'll get him to share those with us. And the one on my desk right now is The Voice-Driven Leader: How to Hear, Value, and Maximize Every Voice on Your Team. So today we're diving into a topic that couldn't be more relevant: what it means to be a voice-driven leader in an AI-driven world. Steve, welcome back to the show. It's good the last time you were here was 21, and 24. It's been too long.
Denise, you're so kind. I always feel that after 3 visits, you should get to keep the podcast. I think that's the way it works, isn't it? So I'm very honored to be on, and I always love chatting with you. So really good to be with you.
Thank you. And I have several of your books here in my entrepreneurial library. Thank you. So what are we talking about today with this one, Voice-Driven Leader? Because it's been here actually on my desk for a couple of months. And you ought to see it, Steve. It's got sticky notes all over it.
Oh.
One of my favorite, and I got a pink sticky note on this one. And the topic is avoiding the pit of despair. We're going to talk about that. We're going down there. But tell people about you, what you're up to these days.
Well, my life has never been dull, Denise, and I've never conformed to any career prospect. I've been everything from a teacher to a pastor to a nightclub owner to an entrepreneur. And for the something I thought was impossible, I've actually taken a job with a company. Now, I'm still chairman of Giant, still workplace, still do my things, as it were. But I am actually the chief performance officer of a publicly traded company called Endava, based in London, but listed on the NASDAQ. And really, they were Giant's first ever client. So I've worked with them for a whole number of years. And as you can imagine, as an IT services business, they are being disrupted by artificial intelligence at a speed which is disturbing. And they basically said, Steve, look, would you be willing to come and be part of the team for a season and help us navigate basically how do we lead our business into the new world? But more importantly, how do we work with all the different businesses and organizations in our world that are going to have to learn how to navigate the AI disruption, which I often say is like surfing 100-foot wave. If you've ever seen pictures of Nazaré, where, Portugal, which is this incredible sort of sand formation, which produces these huge waves, I say to everybody, learning how to surf the AI revolution is going to feel like that. You can't swim over the top of it. You have to ride it. And if you don't ride it, it will kill you. So not engaging with it is not an option. So I feel like I have a front row seat, both to how leaders are living, how they're coping with the stress, but also probably more at the center of AI and technology and innovation than a natural 55-year-old would be at my stage of life. So I'm I feel very excited where I am. I feel I'm growing, I'm learning, and I'm still trying to be a voice-driven leader at the same time. So hopefully that's a little bit of context. I've got my three daughters. My eldest daughter gets married in April, so that's very exciting. And yeah, I still feel to most people I am blessed beyond measure with the quality of the relationships and the friendships and the peace of my life. So there we go. That's the best I can give you, both in what I do and also who I'm trying to be at the moment.
I've heard you say that before, how blessed you are, and I'm so happy to hear you say it again. Okay, let's talk about the five voices. You're best known for your work on the five voices framework. And for
Mhm.
those who may not be familiar, could you walk us through what these five voices are and how understanding them can completely shift how teams communicate and collaborate? And then after that, I'm going to ask you, how can you also use AI to understand this
Mm.
work?
So I think kind of I've been a Jedi personality geek for 23 years now, and Five Voices was written and created to how do you create a vocabulary and language that everybody can use safely without the need for an expert present at all times. So it's simple without being simplistic. It has depths that you can mine out through your voice order. But even if you just know what your foundational voice is, Denise, the one of the five that is most naturally you, that makes a difference in the way that you can relate to people, but also the people around you can. Because we all speak with five voices. So I'll tell you what they are in a moment. So hear that. It's not which one are you, which four are you not, but one of them is most naturally you, and some of the others get progressively harder as we go. So I am a pioneer, connector, creative, guardian, nurturer. I speak all five, but pioneer and connector are the things I'm strongest at. Nurture and guardian, the ones I've had to learn how to do. So each have superpowers. I'll give you the 20-second overview. Nurturers are the champions of people, relational harmony, protectors of values, loyal, trustworthy, caring, empathetic, generous, self-giving, others-focused, always prone to occasional bouts of imposter syndrome, and they always question why they should be trusted with leadership. Everyone else thinks they're amazing. So nurturers represent 43% of the population, so there's not an equal split. Creatives, the creative voice, the creatives are the champions of innovation, future thinking, and integrity. They're always looking towards the future. They're looking for trends in ideas, in technology, what's happening. And they always think outside the box. They're always looking for innovative ways to solve complex problems. But people of enormous integrity, and they'll always hold the organization or the team or the family and say, hey, we said we were going to be this, but it looks to me like we're compromising a little bit on certain things. Strong social conscience. Guardians, third voice, is the guardians are the champions of basically stewardship of resources. They are the champions of truth, and they ask incredibly pertinent questions, and they love to make systems, processes. They like to make the trains run on time. They like to make sure that things are organized well and planned well and executed well. And for most guardians, they believe the way that organizations care most for people is by building efficient, fair, disciplined, repeatable systems and processes. And they steward money, Denise, as if it was their own. And everything is always a little bit, okay, it sounds good, but can we run a pilot? Can we check it's going to work before we go all in? So that's the Guardians. 30% of people speak Guardians their first voice. So that's quite a lot as well. Connectors. Connectors are the champions of relationships. They're the champions of relational networking, communication, messaging, building collaborative environments. They're always championing causes that they can be passionate about, that make a difference in the world for good. And if you cut a connector in half, they always bleed with, how do I help people fulfill their potential? How do I make the world a better place? And they love being part of teams that can win and celebrate and champion things that are worth giving their lives for. And then lastly, but by no means least in their own humble opinion, come loving, cuddly pioneer that champions a strategic vision. They love to win. They love to align people, systems, and resources to deliver complex, significant outcomes. They hate to lose. They're highly competitive. They have incredible staying power and resilience. They'll often be on the battlefield long after everyone else has given up. And the pioneers always have to be careful that the power of their voice doesn't overpower other people. And as a recovering pioneer, Denise, most of the reason why voices and everything else was created was learning for me how to create environments where every voice could be heard, valued, and appreciated. Because if you're not careful as a pioneer, you assume silence is agreement. But when a pioneer is mature, self aware, capable of actually pulling the best from those around them, they are incredibly valuable. When they're immature, they're an absolute nightmare. So there's the five foundational voices. We speak all five. As I said to you, pioneer is the one that's most naturally me. Connector will be number two, creative, guardian, and nurturer. So that's the framework. I mean, it feels there's so many workshops and books have been written on it, but I hope that gives audience at least a way in to understand what we mean when we talk about the five different voices, even though our voice, capital V, means all five.
And I have to tell you, this is for our audience. This is on page 21. It's the five voices summary. Steve, I struggled with this one because I thought, oh, okay, I'm a creative. Uh-oh, I'm a pioneer. I'm just not sure. I suspect
Well,
those are my two strongest voices.
I suspect, Denise, knowing how you never appear on screen with me, if I was to put my money on anything, I would say creative first and pioneer second. But
Really?
if I don't know, that's but the
Well,
way you
those were my
function with a
choices.
bit of mystery
Yeah, those
is
are
a
my
little bit of
choices.
mystery.
Yeah,
There you
creative first, pioneer second. And I had to really think about pioneer until you just explained it. It was like, okay, I'll take that one. I like
there
that
you go.
one. But yeah, and I didn't know I was a creative for the longest kind of time because I'm too logical. I'm too rational. I'm one of those people says, just do it. You're told nobody gets hurt. Well, that doesn't really work. I found that out. But, I didn't know I was a creative. And when it was pointed out to me multiple times, I went, oh, okay.
Well, here's the way you can often test with creative pioneers because they're not all as charming as you, Denise.
Oh,
If you think of when you're back to schools, you would have been incredibly clever at the subjects that you wanted to learn, where you thought the teacher was competent enough to teach you. So the pioneer creative usually will do it to win whatever, but you'd be amazed how many creative pioneers, if they don't think somebody is competent enough to teach them, they're less inclined to behave well or to engage fully in the subject matter. Any of
oh,
that
you
sound
have.
familiar?
Oh, yeah, you have no idea how times I deliberately landed in detention because, honestly, I was reading at 3. I knew more about the subject matter than the
Of
teachers
course.
did.
Of course.
And,
And
yeah,
in the world of AI, you will
yeah.
be most creative pioneers I know will have already designed their own
Oh, yeah.
bot teachers and agents that are far more intelligent and far more attuned to the way they want to learn than the traditional rote learning of
Mhm.
don't get me going on the disruption which is coming for education, Denise, but people who are wired like you are always seen at some point as either highly intelligent and engaging or troublemaker because you keep challenging with your questions that what is going on. And I always say to people, what you've missed is if the creative pioneer is asking questions, however challenging they are, they're actually paying you the ultimate compliment because they think you're intelligent enough that you're worth engaging with, that you might have something that is actually worth learning from. It's when they're not interested is when you've got to worry because then they've already decided you're not clever enough really to be their teacher.
That's when we disappear.
I know. I
We
know.
do.
Anyway, there we go. That's at least I know now, Denise. There we go. I didn't
There
know before.
I didn't either until I opened this up and I've got seriously, there's sticky notes all over it. But I really did struggle with, well, what am I?
Yeah.
Because like you say, all of these voices are here. But the primary for me was creative, and then
Mm,
I might
mm.
switch to pioneer later on, maybe about 3 o'clock this afternoon. I don't know. But
Here's the thing. If you think of, I always say to people is no assessment will ever guarantee nature. So when anyone meets Denise Griffitts, you have whatever you see and engage with. And by the way, most people never see you. So we're
No.
kind of denied that data. We're engaging with a complex mix of your nature, your nurture, and your choice, roughly about a third each. So your personality doesn't change. Nature is, I believe, in the same way DNA is embedded from day one. Your nature in terms of the gifts and the personality, but nurture changes all the time and is unique for everybody. So the oughts and shoulds of our nurture, what did our parents want us to be? What did the school want us to be? If you grew up in the South as a woman, the oughts and shoulds, Denise, of what you ought and should be doing are significantly different to the nature of how you were wired. And then we all have free will. We all have choice. So I always say to people is to go, you've got to let people choose who they want to be because nature, once you know nature, they can begin to see the difference. But you've had a lot of nurture that has been telling you at times you did not to be a creative pioneer. You should be more nurturing. You should be more caring. You should be better at hospitality, all the things that go with the unique pressures of being a Southern woman. So there we go.
Well, and you know this, I fight with my nav system. She's not the boss of me, so I don't take suggestions on board very often, but when I do, they stick. Since we're talking about AI, and I'm so glad we are, technology and especially AI is reshaping everything about
Mm,
how we work. And but you make a strong case, Stephen, for staying voice driven, and that's so important. Everybody write that down. Voice driven in an AI driven world. So I guess my question is, how can organizations leverage AI's power, without
mm.
losing the human spark that keeps teams connected and creative? And I'm guessing that's exactly what you're doing with your job.
It is. And I think that my working thesis will be at the very highest level of organizations, relational skills are more important in the AI world than they were even ever before. So the reality is there's going to come a time, Denise, when nobody really knows whether anything is real unless I'm with you. So, is this really me speaking to you, or is it an agent who's been trained to sound like me? Even a video, is that really me, or whatever it might be? The premium on actually being physically, relationally connected is, I think, going to become even more valuable, not less. And so, therefore, in a sense, people would say business has always been about relationships. And I think that is true. But in the world of AI, it's not, I believe, if you ask me, I'm not watching AI remove people from the equation. I think it will reduce the number of people required to deliver certain outcomes. That I think is another conversation. But at the very highest level, relational interaction and being self aware, others aware, I think is becoming more prized because just using your big brain to do strategic thinking, which a lot of us got away with in a previous era, doesn't work anymore because fundamentally the AI will always be better at manipulating data and faster than we ever can be. And so, therefore, the question of going for leaders, how do I be self aware, but also how do I understand how I can create environments as I harness the power of agents and AI in the world we do? But I'm also dealing with other human beings who are also using or deploying agents. And so, as I said to you before, the kind of the bullseye of my new role is actually saying, I don't know, say a company like MasterCard that we're partnering with now and is saying, we're going to be their partners for 5 years and they're going to spend a certain amount per year. How do we go to the future together, knowing that we don't really know everything about what the technology landscape is going to be? But here's the difference. The key leaders in that partnership, and there may be 7 or so on each side, we're making a journey together. And all of us have our insecurities. We all have our kind of blind spots. We all have different superpowers. And actually watching leaders having to build collaborative business partnerships, which are far more than the old, well, you buy this and we'll sell you that, or whatever it might be. This is truly going, How do we navigate the future together? How do we sell with each other, sell through each other? How do we build products together? How do we share productivity gains with each other? And how do we get to a place where we might even find in certain quarters, you need more of the margin because you've got a particular business challenge. And we're happy to do that because this is what partnership means. So for me, um, AI will never replace our deep need for relational connection, his humanity. And I actually believe, and what I'm watching is the need to be able to build, establish, maintain, and develop long-term trusted relationships under pressure is, I think, going to be the most valuable commodity for senior leaders. I have huge reservations of what it means for the people who would normally be coming in at the entry level positions, Denise, for organizations, because AI is doing a lot of the work that they historically would have done. But that's a different question. Certainly not at the very senior level and with key leaders who are all dealing with their own, a little bit of fear, if we're honest, a little bit of the insecurity of going, what is this really going to mean for me? And you know as well as I do that one of the giant tools that probably I share a lot at the moment is called the wall of self-preservation. And the three questions every leader really has to ask: what am I trying to hide? What am I afraid of losing? Or what am I trying to prove and to whom? And a lot of people at the moment are trying to hide that they're fearful of the AI that's coming. And it just seems to be moving at a speed which causes people to disengage. And that's the worst thing they can do, because we aren't all going to be brilliant at it, but we've all got to be competent in it and understand it and not be threatened by it.
I understand. And when you listed that out, I immediately latched on the third one. That to me is the most important.
Explain more. What are you trying to prove and to whom? Or are you saying on behalf of leaders more generally?
Just leaders in general. I know we're all trying to hide something, largely our biases, because we do come with them. We're born with them. I'm
Mm,
constantly asking myself, is that real? Is that really real? What the heck did you just say to yourself, Denise? Stop it. And then I have a conversation. But I think it's important that we really determine who we are, what we're doing, what we bring to the table, and grow that.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think a lot of people are afraid of losing something right now. Um, and in a sense, we said the more self-preservation you have, the more chance you are that you will lose what you're most afraid of losing. Because people people know when they're around people who are insecure and where they have a high level of self-preservation. You can't build long-term trusted relationships where you're not prepared to lower your wall of self-preservation at some point and invite people into relational trust.
It is difficult, especially with somebody like me who is a card carrying introvert. I really am. You
Yeah.
know, solitude is my nature. That's where I live. That's where I breathe. That's where I think. And I'm not shy. I don't have a single filter that I've ever come across, but I need to be left alone. And introverts are, I think, widely considered to be stuck up or quiet. We're not. We're not shy,
No.
but it's how
You're
we
depth people.
regenerate.
You're
we,
depth people.
we do. Yeah. And it's
And
just,
that's, you
go
know,
ahead.
I mean, and if you think about it, it's actually the strength of deep relationships. I think it's a superpower. I think that you have to be able to establish those deep levels of trust. You don't need 100 people to be your best friend,
No,
but you
three.
still
That's it.
have. There
That's
you
all I've
go.
got.
And if you think of how most leaders function, it's like, who am I willing to trust and be prepared? And different personalities, remember, find it easier than others. You know, creative pioneers have the least relational need for people, Denise. So
Oh,
in a
I
sense,
know.
the internal world is so rich, it's almost like, well, why wouldn't I just stay here? Well, that's probably why you end up doing the things you do, because in a sense, for me, I need, I love the dynamic of people around me. I still have learned how to do depth far more than I would have when I was a 18-year-old pioneer connector. But there's still a part of me which finds the fascination of how people relate to one another. And I think critically, back to the voice driven leader, which was the piece of going, the ultimate challenge for any leader is, are you able to actually multiply your knowledge, skills, and expertise into the life of another? That's the hardest. I mean, whatever the Everest of leadership is for you and the audience as we think about it, I would promise you that true apprenticeship is the most costly form of investment of time, money, and effort, with no guarantee that the outcome from it will be everything you wanted.
That makes sense. And, you just laid out why I do this podcast, which, by the way, is 18 years old now. Like I told you in the green room, it's old enough to drink, drive, or vote. I won't let it vote.
Plus,
But I get to meet people like you from all over the world. I am gifted by people like you with your books. I have thousands of
mm,
these books in my office. I've read every single one of them. Because I don't appear in public very often, and I don't have to, my groceries are delivered, everything's delivered to the door, I love it. But I get to talk with you, I get to read your work, I get to have communication with you. That is such a gift to me. You have no idea.
you're very kind. You are like this international woman of mystery, Denise. When I thought I had a Zoom link, I thought I was actually going to meet you today, but no, there is still the wonderful mystery of I could walk by you in the street and I wouldn't know who you were. So for me
I
as a
Yeah,
pioneer
you
connector,
would.
I find that deeply, deeply frustrating, but I also admire you profusely for being totally true to the way you were made.
Thank you. But I have been recognized by my voice, so I try not to talk out loud
Yes.
much
Ah,
when I'm out here.
well,
Is
when you
it
come to London, let me know. At
I
least
will.
then there's only 15 million people to sort out between you and the others. So
There you go. Listen, this is fun. You're going to have to, and I told you this, I warned you in the beginning, you're going to need to come back. We never can get through an hour. There's just so much. So you have to say yes because I said it on the radio.
Denise, I will always come back whenever you invite me because being me, I've always got an opinion on most things and I'm always learning. So the day I've got nothing new to share, Denise, probably is a very sad day because it means I've stopped learning. And
I
I hope that never
know.
happens.
Yeah, no, and I believe you. Listen, let's go back to navigating challenge. And thank you. You are coming back. I'm inviting you right now. Navigating challenges and opportunities in an A-driven
Mm,
future. I mean, I love your books. I mean, I've read them. They're fat because they've got sticky notes all over the place. They're at eye level. I can reach over and grab one or more of them at any moment. But AI brings both enormous opportunity, as you said, real uncertainty. So from your vantage point, what challenges do leaders need to be most mindful as AI continues to evolve? And this is more important, I think. What opportunities excite you the
mm.
most?
I think um, if you deal with the challenges of I think a lot of people feel intimidated by it. I think a lot of people will have, you know, um, if you think of Harry Potter, which is one of my favorite books, that
Me too.
I will never be a pureblood to to the magical digital world. And at my age, there's a temptation to go, do I really have to embrace this? Can I sort of keep my head in the sand? I would say all of us have a mudblood tendency with mudblood as our goal, with muggle as our almost constant temptation. And I think what I would say to leaders are, if you think you can avoid AI and the disruption it will bring to your world, then I don't believe that is an option. So therefore, the reason why whenever I stand on a stage, I play the 100-foot wave and there's the surfer going down it. And I always say jokingly, look, it took me 3 takes before I finally got that one, which nobody actually believes in these, by the way. I said, this is what it's going to feel like to navigate as a leader the new world. And I don't mind whether you're in education, whether you're in health, whether you're in, whatever sphere of culture you're in, AI is coming for your operating model. I would say that IT has probably gone first. And therefore, there's a lot of learning that's gone on that I think will be helpful for other people. So the challenge I would say is to people, fine, you have to engage with this. Now, that may mean you actually find some purebloods who are younger than you are, who absolutely love this thing. I've got a business called Workplace that I'm a shareholder and chairman of, and it's full of young tech visionaries who literally blow me away with what they're learning on a weekly basis. And I try to, you know, get them to help me every now and again and go, hey, help me understand what's good for me. And what they sometimes say is, Steve, look, your superpower is relationships. You don't need to be a native in this thing, but I want to understand enough to be relevant. And I think that's the challenge I would offer to all leaders. You're going to have to learn how to navigate this wave, whether you navigate it yourself or more likely, you actually create the environment where those who have the gifts, the skills, the expertise, and desire. So think of the creatives in our world, if we use voices, Denise, they love exploring the future. They love being on the cutting edge of technology, innovation, ideas, and almost like this is a, you know, probably even a faster disruption than the rotary steam engine that created the Industrial Revolution. So leadership isn't always about you have to do it all, but you have to embrace it enough so that you can build the people around you to actually navigate the wave that's coming. So that's what I would say is my challenge to everybody. Now, the opportunity is, I would say, when you look as an entrepreneur, and I still think like an entrepreneur all the time, every time there has been these technological innovative breakthroughs, there is always an entrepreneurial Wild West for a short period of time, where those who understand how to leverage the new technology or the new opportunities end up making breakthroughs that become incredibly valuable. And it usually takes 50 years, or probably now a lot less, before the governments and the regulators start to try and level the playing fields a little. And I think we're right in the middle of that at the moment. So, in a sense, that the barriers to entry, which in the Industrial Revolution were huge, you needed capital to be able to build factories and manufacturing plants. The ability now, through what AI is doing, for everybody who wants to be an entrepreneur to build apps, build those things. So I would just say there is an entrepreneurial Wild West that actually every leader has to actually ask, is there an opportunity for me? And ultimately, what is going to be the disruption that leads to new opportunities for the future? So creative destruction is a book I know Alan Greenspan spoke about. I'm not sure who wrote about it, but wherever in the kind of the free market, which I guess most entrepreneurs live in, creative destruction is the ability for capital, both financial and people, to flow towards the place of greatest opportunity. And that is where we are right now. So if you are static, if you are not asking the questions and what is disruption going to look like, how do I ride this wave, you will become obsolete because other people will ride the wave before you will. And I don't believe that the world will look the same, whether you're in education, health, business, IT, whatever it is. In 5 years' time, so much will have changed. That's the difference, I think, between AI and some of the other technological revolutions there have been. The speed just seems to be so much faster than ever before. So, that may sound like both an opportunity and a challenge. I suspect my challenge sounded like an opportunity as well. But that's what I'm seeing at the moment. And what I'm trying to do, Denise, is to go, I'm never going to be the pure blood AI genius. But what I am doing is I'm helping leaders navigate their own ups, downs, fears, insecurities, as huge amounts of capital gets wiped off stock markets just because people go, well, Open Claude have brought something else new out. It's going to do away with lawyers and software and all these things. We're right in the middle of that thing. And sometimes you have to be able to take a deep breath, realize it's never going to be as bad as they say it is, but it's also probably never going to be as good as they think it is. And how do we as leaders try and navigate that fear of surfing the wave, but doing it with as much maturity and as much stability and as much groundedness as we can? So I would say as well to leaders, back to gears, which is another one, your first gear recharge strategy becomes even more important. You actually have to take time to recreate, to recharge, to switch off physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, because work is so complex right now. You are going to burn out intellectually at the very least if you don't create those rhythms and patterns which allow you to rest because the
Right.
digital world never closes. I know you agree with me on that.
Oh, I am. I am. And while you were talking, I kept writing down and underlining this word curiosity, curiosity. You need to be curious. And you're talking
Mm,
about resting this weekend. I decided to try to figure out why I'm called panda. I have a very rare blood type. And in Asia, mostly it's called panda blood because it's so rare. What got me going down that road? I don't know. I was sitting with my cat who was dying. She passed away this morning. She's 21 years old. And I was sitting with her on my lap and just got curious about myself. And I went to Grok and asked about my blood type. And I was told that I was rare, which I knew. I already knew that. But, yeah. And there's also a myth going around that people with my blood type are descended from aliens. Well, I buy that too. Why not? So I am special. But it was a break from the grief and the worry, and it was
mm,
fascinating, and I sent it to my sister. She said, "I don't think we're related." I said, "I'm pretty sure we are." It's just but it was a break. I needed it. I needed something that was lighthearted, that was
mm,
informative, and, Grok had a nice conversation with me. I kept it. But sometimes you just need to go down a rabbit hole just to break whatever's got you worried, whatever's got you concerned.
yeah. And here's the difference, Denise, is what you articulate there is a brilliant first gear strategy for someone who's a creative pioneer. That
Oh,
each of our personalities usually require often different strategies for helping us do those things. And that's that self-awareness piece of going, how do you recharge? How do you do that well? So for me, I actually need a stimulus of activity and interest, which stops my brain from defaulting to problem solving. So I know some people think golf is a stupid game, or when you get to my age, it's the only game you can compete at. But for 4 hours, my little brain is only worrying about how do I get that ball in the hole? How do I manage my emotions, my physical, mental chess, my ups and my downs? And I find I don't think about work. When I go and watch movies, movies are another expression of creativity, which are designed to pull you in and make you think about other things. So if you think about it, I use as my recharge the ability for my brain. I struggle to find neutral if I've got lots on. These give me something else to think about, which changes the focus of what I do. So that's me as a pioneer connector. I know it's different again for nurturers who sometimes have to move physically from the place they feel responsible for everyone's happiness and well-being. They actually have to go somewhere physically different from where they live and work in order to truly relax and recharge. So, there's plenty of stuff on that we've done before, but it's helpful to understand that we're wired differently, and understanding your voice and understanding what drives you in the way you relate to other people. That for me is like, self awareness is 101. Being
yes.
others aware and being able to apply the learning of your self awareness to the relational dynamics of your life. That is where usually influence goes to another level.
And I wanted to ask you, because you just said something important, leadership at its core is really all about relationships, whether they're digital, whether they're in person, whether they're a voice on a podcast, whatever it is. So, what does it take to build relationships that are not only healthy, but sustainable in this fast-paced, tech-saturated world? And really what I'm asking is, I'd love to hear how you coach leaders to balance drive and empathy, especially in
Mm.
environments where performance pressure is high. Empathy, I think, is something that we're starting to learn about all over again.
Gosh, there's a lot of questions in there. I think the
I
first thing that
know,
comes to
sorry,
my
and I
mind,
caught it when I
no,
was
Denise,
doing it.
don't worry, don't worry. I do the same thing. I think that this is where me being a pastor helps. So, in a sense, I would say, look, guys, we were made to be human beings before we became human doings. And for a lot of people
Oh,
wired like you and I find it a lot easier to be a human doing than I am a human being. I love to do. Simply choosing to be without activity is sometimes quite difficult for me. So I think if you think of the the evolution of mindfulness and meditation and what that's really saying, Denise, is to go, we are struggling with a world where work never stops. So in the industrial world, you went to work and you came home and you punched in, you punched out. There was very clear delineation between I go to the factory, I go to the office, and I'm at work. Whereas in the digital world, all those boundaries blurred because you can work from anywhere. And now in an AI world, our agents work 24/7, 365, and they don't get tired. So I think in terms of, you said, for human, how do you begin to create empathy? You actually have to teach leaders that their feelings are as important, if not more important, than their intellect. If you look at our brain, by the way, there's a clue. Those of us who think we're very rational, logical beings, only 10% of our brain is made up of that bit. We are far more made for relational, emotional need, and we need each other as a biological principle. So, therefore, when we're helping leaders understand, I'm saying, look, you will be far more influential in achieving what you want to achieve if you learn to relationally connect with your people. So that's a way of manipulating people into thinking they should. But at its deepest level, I believe we were made for relationships. And I think that's one of the challenges of the AI world is, what is a relationship? I remember a friend of mine who was a psychologist said to me, he said, Steve, in the pandemic, when we did a real lockdown, by the way, not like some countries in the world, whenever we saw each other on a Zoom call, there was a part of us which actually felt excited to see each other, he said. But there's another part of us when we feel like we're together, but we're not together. There is actually something happens at a genetic level that actually is to do with sorrow and loss, which is why many of us had to move from doing back to back to back hour Zoom calls to like 45 minutes and give ourselves 15 minutes. Because what he's saying is we were made to be with each other in a relational, intimate way. Actually, we pick up a lot of the nuances, Denise, by what we see and the non-verbal communication. So, can you and I really, really have depth friendship without being physically together? Well, it's questionable. And I think that's the bit most leaders look at those skills as, well, Steve, I'll get that done, but at the moment I've got to deliver quarterly numbers because I'm going to be in trouble. And I go, yes and no. The quarterly numbers will always be there, and the quarterlies come around every quarter, and it's brutal. It's attritional. But the reality is none of us know how many the years we have to live here. And as someone who's taken, a number of funerals over the years and certainly been to a fair few, at funerals, Denise, nobody really talks about the human doing that's just died. They talk about the human being, the difference they made in their life, how they made them feel, stories of the relational interaction and the difference they made in the world. So in a sense, we can often hide behind as leaders, yeah, but I've got to deliver this because, I'm responsible for the school fees, or I'm responsible for shareholders, or all the people who work for me. All those things are true. But I always say to leaders is to go, you were made to be a human being. And I would say more than ever before, people are looking for leaders who are authentic and real, and what they say matches how they live. That desire, particularly from the millennials and Gen Z, is there integrity in your leadership? And that usually means the way you lead outside of work is just as important as inside. And I think that's a generational change. So, I'm a passionate advocate for saying you have to learn how to be in order really to be at your best when you do. But I also know how difficult it is to do that without intentionality and health.
We hear the word authentic a lot these days. I'd say since COVID, everything kind
Yeah.
of distilled down. Oh, you have to be authentic. You have to be authentic. Well, you should be anyway. I'm not sure why it has to be said, but
Oh, but Denise, I tell you what, the politics that go on in relational dynamics in large, complex organizations. I'm at the middle of I live now. I look out over the Bank of England in London from my office, and there are 3 million people in that square mile most days. And money, sex, and power go together. there is all kinds of politics and insecurities and, people playing games and people fearful of the future, trying to protect their job, all of which I understand. But ultimately, in the end, the capital that is most valuable as a leader is the people trust you. They trust your character, they trust your competency, and they trust that you are for them as much as you're for yourself. And that's, it's hard to do when you're feeling insecure and under pressure. But it's the thing which actually, in my experience, differentiates the good leaders from great leaders, because it's never really about us. It's about how am I creating the environment where others get to be the best they can be, and how do I sublimate my ego and my needs for the good of the whole, rather than it be about how does this organization serve my needs and my ego, which I understand, but I see the very best leaders I know and the privilege I've had to work with, almost all of them, it's never about them. And they actually at times struggle to want the spotlight to be on them. They'd rather point it on others.
I understand that. And listen, I was very young. I was a very quiet child, as you can imagine. I lived in a chaotic house of extroverts.
Mm.
We didn't get along well. I was always hiding. They'd say, "Where's Denise?" "I don't know." And they'd go hunt for me, and I'd, just shrink myself down, but I got over that pretty quickly. But I learned, being an introvert in an extroverted household, to watch what people do, not what they say, what they do,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
consistent they were. And that has been a criteria for me all of my life. What are you doing? How are you showing up? Don't tell me what you're going to, what you think I need to know. Let me watch you.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not, I find this easy, but I think the thing which most leaders appreciate the most is when you're actually able to give them the choice. Because a lot of leaders are accidental, and they undermine their influence without really even knowing they've done it every day. I'd always say that what we've created with the sort of the giant tools and the various voices and other things is we've created a way that if you want to do the work, you can be relationally intelligent, you can lead more effectively. Just because I know the answer doesn't mean I always get it right, Denise. As my wife and kids will tell you, but at least I know when I've got it wrong in a way that I didn't before. So I become consciously incompetent now, rather than just living unconscious incompetence, which is sadly where I see a whole number of leaders often sit and live, because no one wants to tell them how things are going.
Explain what that means. I get it, but our audience is going, "What? What's the difference there?"
Denise, this may have to be our next conversation, because
I was afraid of
I
that.
I mean, this is the one where now you see I have a real job and I'm supposed to be on an executive team meeting in 1 minute. So, I that question, how do you deal with the fact that how do you become consciously incompetent and embrace it? I think that plays into a lot of what we wrote in The Voice Driven Leader, because you can't get to conscious competence without dealing with conscious incompetence. And I reckon we put a pin in that one, because
Mm,
that's the pit of despair that you talked to me about earlier. But
I've got that
um,
open still. That's my favorite chapter in the
so
whole
so
book.
so let's come back to that one. I like the green room because I've done that so many times without realizing it. But I love my conversations with you, Denise. I wish we could do more of these, but I promise you, I will come back again if you want me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, listen, you go ahead and wig out, go, and I'll wrap this up. And I will get in touch with you later, and we're definitely going to get you rescheduled. So thank you.
Pleasure, Denise. Absolutely pleasure as always. You're a joy to speak to. I dream one day I might actually get to meet you. That would be really fun. But thank you.
Good.
And thank you for the privilege of being able to share my heart with your audience as well. And congratulations on your 18 years.
Thank you. We'll go, and I'll talk with you again soon. So listen, everybody, today's conversation with Steve Cockram reinforced a truth that's easy to overlook. Technology may be transforming the world, but it's our humanity, our voices, and our relationships that truly drive meaningful leadership. And from understanding the five voices, and I really think you ought to get all of their books, and how they strengthen communication to embracing AI in a way that complements, not replaces, our human instincts. Steve reminded us that the future belongs to leaders who stay clear, connected, and intentional. So thank you for tuning into Your Partner in Success Radio. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you found today's episode helpful, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with someone who's passionate about leadership and growth. And you'll be able to connect with him on LinkedIn. He's very easy to find. So until next time, remember, success is not a solo journey. And stay curious, stay connected, and keep using your voice to lead with integrity and purpose. I will see you next week, and thank you.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.